careless as the day you sailed with the Skull Rock podcast. Proceed at your own risk and mark well me words, ladies. Dead men tell no tale.
Welcome to Skull Rock Podcast, the show about all things Disney and pop culture. Every week we take you behind the scenes of some of your favorite Disney films, theme park attractions, performances, books, music, as well as what's streaming and what's playing in this universe of entertainment. I'm Aljon Go, longtime Disney, Marvel, Star Wars fan, and pop culturist. And you can email me, Aljon, A-L-J-O-N, at skullrockpodcast.com.
And I'm Dave Bossert, artist, filmmaker, and author. Welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast. If you love Disney and pop culture, please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also like and follow us on Facebook, X, Blue Sky, Instagram, LinkedIn, and on our very own Skull Rock YouTube channel. That's right. You can see Aljon and my mugs up on YouTube now. You can also email me at dave@skullrockpodcast.com. Aljon, it is absolutely frigid. I moved to the beaches not for sub-zero weather. You know, it's supposed to be like 45 to 50 degrees on average at the beaches, and it was 10 degrees this morning.
Yeah, right. The same here. It's super cold, but hey, at least we're not under blankets of ice and snow.
That is true, but
okay.
I have to say I am a little bit sort of taken back by this, and I will say that maybe this is the bad winter, and the next 3 or 4 will be mild winters, which I am praying for.
Keep our fingers crossed for that. Well, Dave, I hope things warm up this week. I'm going to pay attention to the weather. I did buy a snow shovel just in case, which
really. I have not gone that far.
I have, because I don't want to so literally, so this is what happened, gang. So right after the show recorded, I went out to get the mail and I slipped and fell on my ass. That's exactly what
no.
So I was like, that ain't happening again.
All right. Well, Aljon, when it did snow here, I was in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And we had somebody on text that we texted and said, can you shovel the driveway and the walkway? And they went and took care of it for us. And we could watch them do it on our security cameras.
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
It was great. Wild. It really was.
Well,
anyway, well, I will tell you though, it is supposed to get back up to the average temperature, which is mid 40s at this time of year where I am.
There you go. Oh, good. So, well, I'm glad that you sussed everything out. So as we hold our hands for warmer weather, let's talk about today's show, a more serious tone, because we're paying tribute to one of your colleagues, Dave.
Yeah, we're going to rerun our Roger Allers interview. Roger, as many of you know, passed away 2 weeks ago. And he was the co-director of The Lion King. He was an incredible story artist, and just generally a great artist, and also a really pretty wonderful person, I have to say. I had the pleasure of working closely with him on The Little Match Girl. I had known him for decades. In fact, Aljon, I was trading emails with him a few days before he passed away. Because I was, essentially trying to get him booked for an interview, because one of our listeners had asked if we could get Roger on to talk about the film The Prophet that he directed.
Yes.
And so I had reached out to him and we were trading emails, and it was an absolute shock. So I'm happy to say that we did this interview with Roger back in 2021, August of 2021. We hadn't even celebrated our 1-year anniversary yet. But Roger was one of our early guests on the show, and we're going to rerun this interview because I think we have a much larger audience base now, and many of our listeners may not have heard this interview, although it's available in the archive. So we're going to rerun that, and I'm looking forward to hearing him again.
A very, very tragic, very sudden, seemingly, but we are very honored and glad that he was able to tell his story on our show, at least for an episode. So, man, it's going to be great to revisit this interview. I'm looking forward to listening to it again because it's been
Yeah, and,
years, Dave.
the other thing too is that, we all have a number. Our number gets punched at some point, and we leave this world for the next, whatever that is, whatever you believe. And the fact is somebody like Roger has left an indelible mark on the world. His contributions to animation are going to resonate for decades into the future. The fact that he was a co-creator, a co-director of the Lion King, and, co-wrote the book for the Broadway show. These types of accomplishments live on and resonate out into the future, and people will enjoy his work for generations to come.
Absolutely. And we're looking forward to revisiting this interview. And I encourage everybody to go check out the archives for all the great interviews we'd had over time. And hard to believe that we had him on the first year of our show. I mean, I feel like every time we log in, Dave, that it's literally we're doing this for a year. It doesn't even feel like we've been doing it for this long.
Look, we have 200 and almost 280 episodes under our belt. And
Unbelievable.
and we do this because we love it. It's a passion project for us. We're not making money on this, folks. And so I would say sometimes we have technical issues, and I'm addressing what happened last week, Aljon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes we have technical issues, and it's okay because we're doing this from a place of love, and sometimes we make mistakes because we're human beings. I'm the first to admit I'm a numbskull when it comes to doing a show like this. I only rely on Aljon, and Aljon, has been diligent about you've been diligent about upgrading our software and taking us onto new platforms. And this new platform had its own issues last week, which contributed to what happened with our show last week, which
Yeah.
has been fixed so
Which
far.
yes, exactly. No, I
So
mean, it's cool. And I
so
appreciate it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. The feedback.
you know what? Stuff happens, folks, and that's just the way it is. And we're just going to keep doing our show every week, really, because Aljon and I love getting together every Sunday morning and chatting. Aljon and I chat before we even record the intro to the show because we're friends. We catch up on what we did in the past week, who we ran into, things that are happening in our lives, things that you do when you have friends, when
Yes.
you're talking with a friend. And so I look forward to every Sunday morning doing this show with you, Aljon. And I want our listeners to know that because again, we're doing this from a place of love and a passion for wanting to preserve this oral history, if you will, and also now on YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better, Dave. And we have a great time. So, welcome to our coffee talk.
There you
And
go. A coffee talk.
we've got some meat potatoes, but before we get into the big stuff we're going to be dealing with, let's launch into
Skull Rock Podcast answers your email.
man. I love it, Dave, when we're able to delve into the mailbag and check out what people have to say.
I do too. And, we got a bunch of emails this past week, but this one really stood out. And I wanted to just give a shout out to our friend Eric Robinson in Honolulu, Hawaii. He's a fantastic Imagineer artist. I love his paintings. If you've listened to the show long enough, I've just gushed about Eric's work. I just think he's incredible. He's always putting up new paintings that he's done on his social media feeds. And he's an avid listener. Not only was he a guest, but he listens to this podcast every week when he does his walk. He goes out and walks, and he puts on his earbuds and he listens to our podcast. And folks, this is what he wrote. Again, I have to tell you guys something. When I first saw that there was going to be a 4-part Disney lawyer string of episodes, I thought that I may be bored. But I'm going to tell you right now, I absolutely love listening to this guy, Ed. And it is so fun to hear the other side of this creative company that has to deal with non-creative things. Very, very interesting, fun stories. Just love it. You guys always rock. Happy New Year, Eric from
Oh,
Honolulu, Hawaii. Happy New Year to you, Eric. And it was great getting this note. And I know, my friend Ed, who listens to the show every week, is going to love hearing the fact that, this was really a fascinating series of interviews with Ed because there is so many different facets to the Walt Disney Company. And I thought it was appropriate to put up this kind of an interview because, there is so many things that go on behind the scenes and it contributes to the cost of doing business, as we talked about over the last several weeks. So, Eric, I'm glad you enjoyed this episode. And believe me, we are never putting anything up that's boring.
Dave has a very great way of interviewing people where he brings out the best. It's the producer in him coming back out to celebrate the history of animation and art. So, Eric, thank you so much for that feedback. We appreciate it. But Dave, you're coming into your own in terms of interviewing people. I'm waiting for the Barbara Walters, Diane Sawyer to come out of you and make people cry on this podcast. So crossing my fingers, waiting in bated breath. So,
Well, it may happen someday. Who knows? Maybe I'll be the one crying. I don't know.
I don't know. I cry every week. Hey, gang, feel free to write us those emails. We appreciate the feedback, Eric. And you can be like Eric, and maybe we can read your email in a future episode.
Pam, she wrote this great review of my poetry book.
That's my pick.
I read a great review.
Your girlfriend got a great review.
Oh, that's my pick, too. Sorry.
Excuse me while I start the projector.
Skull Rock Podcast, Picks of the Week. All right, as that acetate projector rolls, we now know it's time for our Picks of the Week. Dave, what have you been watching this week?
Well, I have to say, Aljon, I didn't watch a lot of stuff this week. I had a lot. I had workers crawling all over the place on the outside, on the inside of this new place I'm moving into, or moved into. Yes. I feel like I'm continuing to settle, but I did have a chance to watch Disneyland Handcrafted on Disney Plus. And this is the brand new documentary. It's an hour and 18 minutes. It's directed by Leslie Iwerks. This is a home run of a documentary. It is fascinating to watch this. In fact, I'm going to watch it again because I just was so thrilled with the footage that she was able to pull together. A lot of this stuff had been buried in the company and hadn't really been seen to the extent that she was able to put it all together. But she does a marvelous job stringing together archival footage with the voices of the people who built Disneyland. And I don't know if you've seen this yet, Aljon, but it is just incredible. It is a great documentary. It's one of the best Disneyland documentaries I've seen in a very, very long time. A lot of times when people do a documentary on Disneyland, you're seeing a regurgitation of footage that you've seen before. Well, what was wonderful about this was being able to see some black and white footage that then all of a sudden turns to color, because they shot it in color, to see the time-lapse photography of different parts of the park being built, to actually see Harper Goth with Walt Disney, to actually see Ward Kimball down at the park, to see a lot of familiar faces it was a thrill. So all I can say is this is a must see, and probably you're going to want to watch this twice, if not more.
Yes, that's great that you said that, Dave, because I did talk about this last week. I saw it when it came out, And I thought the footage was amazing, amazingly clean, looks wonderful, especially on an HD TV. The voiceovers were nice and crisp and clear. So they did so much restoration. Whatever they did, Dave, and you're a film historian, restorer yourself. You've done this for Disney, and it's amazing. Whatever technology they used, AI, whatever, I don't know, but it looks amazing. So, and you said there's things you haven't even seen before. I didn't know that because I seemingly have seen so many like of these documentaries that people have put out, but I've never seen it presented in such a way before. So it's nice to hear that some of this is brand new stuff that you've seen, because it seems to me like when I reviewed it, it didn't break new ground for me, but I'm glad to see that there's footage that even you haven't seen yet, and you follow this, you've written about it. So
Yeah, and look, I mean, obviously there's lots of stuff in there that I was aware of. There was all kinds of, things that they were, talking about, like the rivers of America, filling it and coming back the next day, and the water was gone because of the sandy soil, and they had to, line the riverbed with clay so the water wouldn't, seep through, and all of this kind of stuff. All those stories, yes, you're aware of tidbits, but to have everything strung together with this type of footage that some of it I hadn't seen before, much, there was a lot of stuff I had seen. One of the things that I was sort of laughing about a little bit while I watched this was, this type of footage is a snapshot in time, right? It's a time capsule from another era. And I was just, looking at certain things and going, wow, look at this. They've got the park open. There's no guardrail against that walkway into Lagoon. There's workers being lowered on cables with no safety. There's no safety harnesses. People are spray painting, fiberglass, spray painting, various things with
shooting everything
with no respirators on, and smoking cigarettes. And I mean, it was just like, I was looking at it through that lens going, my God, the
OSHA violations.
how far we've come from a safety standpoint in construction
Oh yeah.
compared to that period. And also, I was kind of chuckling a little bit about the fact that, my God, the Disney lawyers, watching this kind of material would be probably going apoplectic,
Oh.
just watching some of this stuff. But it was really kind of funny to, to be able to see that kind of footage and not only that, but the fact that they allowed some of that footage to be put into the documentary, I thought was really fantastic, because again, it's a snapshot of a particular time, an era that, we have advanced so far from. But I mean, to see heavy equipment rolling over, and, these guys doing things that, no safety harness, no, like, holy mackerel, you could get killed doing that, but it was pretty amazing to watch just the overall story. But that was sort of an aside note of some of the things going through my head going, wow, but it was so great to really be able to see a lot of the people and hear the voices, Ruth Shellhorn, the landscape architect, to hear her voice, and to hear some of the other folks talking, Dick Irvine and Harper Goth, and it really was fantastic to be able to see all of that. So I really enjoyed it. I don't want to dwell on it. A lot of people have already seen it already, but if you haven't seen it, go see it. It's on Disney Plus. It's one of the best Disneyland documentaries on the making of Disneyland that you can check out. I also continue to watch Bookish on PBS, which is a fantastic show. I mean, the production value is off the charts. It's just well done, well acted. Really great show. And then season 2 of The Night Manager on Prime, I continue to watch episodes of that. So I'm going to be doing a lot of watching of stuff over the next day or so because it is so freaking cold outside. What have you been watching, Aljon?
Well, Dave, I continue to watch Nashville 9/11, Hulu. And so this show started off very fantastical, outrageous. A tornado comes into Nashville and all hell breaks loose. The next arc of 3 episodes, there is a hacker that hacks into the Nashville grid and is demanding money and blah, 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 blah. And so Nashville Fire Rescue reacts. Now we have the aftermath of it. It seemingly has calmed down for a little bit. I can tell you that for over the top drama, Nashville 911 delivers. But in terms of, it is definitely more or less like less Law and Order and more Grey's Anatomy. That's what I'll say for
All
Nashville.
right.
I did see The Muppet Show, Dave.
Oh, yes, that's on my list of things to watch.
Yes. So the new Muppet Show, Kermit and Friends return in a modern take on their classic variety show format, mixing nostalgic charm with new comedy bits while staying true to the Muppets' timeless spirit. Did they deliver? I will say yes. This is a great way to get back into the Muppets. Once again, as I mentioned last week, I'm not the biggest fan of Seth Rogen, but I do like the fact that they put together a very compelling and yet funny episode that pays homage, is almost a love letter, especially is very meta as they understand, look, if this show doesn't do well, maybe we won't come back for a season, even though it was a pilot for an upcoming Muppet series. So I tell everybody out there, if you love the Muppets like Dave and I do, go watch this show. Support the Muppets because we want more of this. It's comedy, it's slapstick, it's fun, it's musical, which I dig. And I think that you'd be very delighted to see what they're doing with the show. All the favorite Muppets are back and they did new music. So the new Muppet Show theme is great. I think they capture the spirit of some of the original Muppets. And they did do what they set out to do. Sabrina Carpenter as a guest host on the show, doing a couple musical numbers, which is great. So they have that formula there. They have guest spots by Seth Rogen and Maya Rudolph from Saturday Night Live. She comes in there for a little bit as well. So I think they're on the right path. Continue with this right path and deliver what is great, irreverent, funny, and slapstick about the Muppets, and you will win. I guarantee it.
Elton, let me ask you this question, though. Is this an hour format, variety show format, or is it a half hour?
I believe this is a variety show format. I think it's a little bit over. It's 32 minutes long, Dave.
Okay. So essentially, it's the old Muppet Show format. And
Yes.
are they doing just one or have they done several?
This is a special, Dave, and this is what was not published is that this special is actually a backdoor pilot. So if a lot of people
Okay.
to it, then they'll continue to do it. So I think it's great. And I think a lot of the people that are with the team of Muppets are back doing this. We had Bill Beretta on the show. He's back doing Ralph, and it's great to see the Muppets.
Pepe the Prawn.
Pepe,
Pepe the
yeah,
Prawn.
he was actually in the show as well.
Awesome.
Dr. Teeth, the Swedish chef. I mean, they're all there, and I'm delighted. I'm really delighted by it. So, and Sabrina Carpenter, by the way, I believe is also an associate producer along with Goldberg and Seth Rogen. So they're doing great. And
I'm sure she's not an associate producer. I'm sure she's an executive producer.
Yeah, executive producer.
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. But you know something, I would say that to everybody, if you love the Muppets, please go watch this. Let's get a lot of eyeballs on this so that they decide to pick it up for a season, and hopefully more than one season.
I agree. And I think it's fun to see those celebrities get in there and do stuff. I have very fond memories of the original Muppet Show. And by the way, episodes of the original Muppet Show now streaming on Disney Plus.
Awesome.
That. Dave, I saw The Housemaid.
And
So the housemaid, well, let's read the boiler. A struggling young woman is relieved by the chance of a fresh start as a maid for a wealthy couple. Soon, she discovers the family secrets are far more dangerous than her own. And I came in with very medium expectations for the film. Some of my favorites are in here. Amanda Siegfried, she's fun. Sydney Sweeney, of course, the actress de jour, if you will. We have a lot of different people. We have, let's see here. Peter Colanandro is here. Let's see who else. So we have some people, a lot of people I've never heard before, but that doesn't detract from the fact that this has got shades of The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. It has shades of, what was that film with the bunny, Fatal Attraction. So it has a lot of those kind of psychological drama and twists that I was not expecting. In fact, there's not just one twist, there's multiple twists, and done in a very good way. Seeds have been planted, and it does pay off in the end. So much so that, of course, this movie has spent its time at the box office. So people are responding to this film, possibly setting up for a sequel. So once again, I believe it delivers. Housemaid, definitely one to check out if you like those psychological thrillers in the style of a Fatal Attraction.
By the way, before we move on, I do have one more that I wasn't going to talk about, but I'm going to mention it because, normally I'm very upbeat and I talk about all these great shows that I've enjoyed. This was horrid. It's called Muzzle 2, City of Wolves, starring Aaron Eckhart. And I have to tell you, folks, don't waste your time. This was just a horrid, horrid movie. It was absolutely terrible. I saw it on Prime. Aaron Eckhart, who normally I think is a good actor, and has been in some good shows. I don't know why he did this. It had to have been for the money. It was just an awful show. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 44%. IMDb 4.6 out of 10. I would just tell people, don't even bother. It's 2 hours I'm never going to get back. So there you have it. There's a terrible review of something.
This is Muzzle, City of Wolves?
Muzzle 2. It's
Muzzle
a sequel to Muzzle, right? Muzzle 2, City of Wolves is the name of it. It's terrible.
Oh my God. Well, Muzzle
All right,
top.
there you go, folks. I do watch some crap once in a while.
Can't believe you said that. That's great. I know, and I like Aaron Eckhart. Hey, gang. So if you want to hear more crap reviews from Dave, as well as stunning ones from yours truly, feel free to send us that email and we'll check it out in a future episode. Before we move on, I will mention the Winter Olympics has started, Dave. Did you catch the opening ceremony?
I did. I did watch part of the opening ceremony. I thought it was very well done. I enjoyed it.
Well, if you haven't checked it out, check it out because they're being hosted by multiple cities. Milan are hosting ice events over there, and there's a bunch of really cool stuff happening. And fortunately, it seems like Lindsey Vonn, who was going to be working for the U.S., crashed downhill and torn her ACL, and that was a rough video to watch because her Olympic dreams of a comeback were definitely dashed at that time. But and she was doing a slalom, I guess, with 36 skiers downhill and for the U.S. team, and ripped her ACL.
She basically crashed doing 85 miles an hour.
It was
and it really is something to see. But you know what? She is one tough cookie, and she is back. She is going to compete for gold.
Well, she's coming back.
No, she is back. She is over in Milan/Cortina, Italy, and she is going to compete. So,
okay. Well,
she's wearing a knee brace, but she's going to do it.
Unbelievable. What a comeback. So, well, good luck to that. It's going to be interesting to see how the Winter Olympics takes shape, and we'll be kind of keeping a close eye on it right now. And right now, U.S. has not gotten a medal, but we hope they will in the days to come.
Skull Rock Podcast, This Week in Disney and Pop Culture.
All right, Dave, tops of the charts this week at the box office. Send Help opens at 19 million to 20 million, taking the number one spot. And then we have Iron Lung follows closely with 17.8 million. Not bad for an independent release. Melania and MGM Studios puts out this First Lady doc leading up to the Trump administration taking office, comes in third with 7 million. And then we have Zootopia continues to hold strong with 5.8 million, pushing past the 409 million total, and Avatar Fire and Ash rounding it out at 5.5. It's not bad for those films that came out holiday of last year. So pretty interesting stuff, Dave. And I guess they're 28 years later, the Bone Temple falls to 1.6, and Mercy's also down sharply as well. Very interesting stuff, box office wise.
Well, Shelter is the new Jason Stratham film.
Jason Statham,
Yeah,
yes.
or Statham, excuse me.
Yeah.
And that debuted at 5.5 million. I'm gonna go see it. I go see all Jason's movies.
He's good. I mean,
He's an action star. You're seeing what you want, lots of action, but high
Exactly.
body count.
Well, what more do you want? I mean, that's exactly what you want out of it. You know, the big number, 13 million, according to the Hollywood Reporter, for a show that we both like, High Potential, Dave. It shows no sign of slowing down through its second season. The series delivered big during the seventh day audience to win the January 20th episode. Was doing really well, Dave. And then The Pit returning as well. Dave, you're a big fan of The Pit.
Big fan of The Pit. I think
great
this is
show.
one of the best shows that's on streaming. You can see it on HBO Max. I think people, if you haven't seen it and you want to see a good hospital drama, it takes place in the emergency room of the Pittsburgh Hospital. Watch The Pit. I mean, it's season 2. It's fantastic.
Well, there you go. Noah Wyle once again donning his ER scrubs for The Pit.
Did I mention that I went to a small theater? When I say small, maybe a few hundred people could fit in the theater. I saw Noah Wyle playing Salvador Dali. He played Salvador Dali in a play in Hollywood. And I went to see it with Roy Disney. The two of us, we had dinner. We had dinner, and then went to see this play.
Wow!
Yeah, it was really crazy. So, but anyway, just in a little aside there.
Well, that's a very well. It's wild because, of course, he did the whole Salvador Dali documentary, but then you have to see Noah Wyle do that. It's kind of wild. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we were working on Destino, I think, at the time.
No, that's right. Yeah.
So it was kind of crazy.
That's wild, man. Wow, that's very cool. Once again, Landman continues to do wonderfully in the streaming charts with over 1 billion plus minutes viewed, along, of course, with Stranger Things. Taylor Sheridan still, punching up and keeping his mitts in streaming. That's a lot of stuff.
Hey, Landman's a great show.
There you go. Well, speaking of punching up, our guy Josh D'Amaro named the next chief executive officer of the Walt Disney Company this week. We saw this kind of happening. We know that the current Disney CEO, Bob Iger, is stepping down this year, and it seems like he's going to be moved into a consulting role starting March. But Dave, what say you about Josh D'Amaro taking the reins of the Walt Disney Company? And then, of course, Dana Walden, who I've mentioned before, is going to be taking over as chief creative officer for the Walt Disney Company.
Yeah, look, I think that this time around, the search was done really well. They had some very strong candidates. And, the bottom line is that I think they made the right choice. Josh was the chairman of, Parks and Resorts and Experiences, whatever they're calling that division now. And that particular division is the huge moneymaker for the entire company. And so it just seems like the right person. Now, the chairman of the Walt Disney Company is a guy named James Gorman. He used to be the CEO of Morgan Stanley. And he did an incredible succession plan at Morgan Stanley to bring up talent within the organization to replace him. And instead of, picking one person and letting the other person go, they went through a very rigorous process. And when he determined who was going to be the next CEO, the second person, they tied down and said, look, we love you. We want you to be the president, and so I think James Gorman took a similar approach here that he did at Morgan Stanley, and with the Walt Disney Company, he, you had Josh Diamore, uh, and Dana Walden. And, look, Dana Walden, they made president and chief creative officer of the company, and she knows the whole broadcast end of things, right? They made sure that Alan Bergman isn't going anywhere. He's the chairman of the studios. And you got Jimmy Pitaro in charge of ESPN. So you got a really strong bench of people there in the leadership positions. So I think that this time around, this is going to be a much smaller, a much smoother transition. And Bob Iger's going to step down March 18th as the CEO. Josh D'Amaro, takes the reins, but Iger is going to stick around until the end of the year.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
I think that I don't think you're going to see any kind of major upheaval once Josh takes the reins in mid-March, the way you saw the upheaval when Bob Chapek took over for Bob Iger.
According to James Gorman, as you mentioned, Dave, quote, Josh D'Amaro possesses the rare combination of inspiring leadership and innovation, a keen eye for strategic growth opportunities, and a deep passion for Disney brand and its people, all of which make him the right person to take the helm as Disney's next CEO. And Bob Iger mentions, quote, Josh D'Amaro is an exceptional leader and the right person to become our next CEO. He has the instinctive appreciation for the Disney brand and a deep understanding of what resonates with our audiences, paired with the rigor and attention to detail required to deliver some of our most ambitious projects. His ability to combine creativity with operational excellence is exemplary, and I'm thrilled to have Josh to the company. That is really great words. And also a lot of great words for Dana Walden, which, by the way, I mentioned that she would be great as at the helm of the Walt Disney Company. And here's another quote here. Dana Walden is an excellent leader who commands tremendous respect from the creative community, continued Iger. Given that creativity is at the heart of everything Disney does, she's a wonderful choice to serve in this new leadership role. In the years since Dana joined Disney, she has accumulated great knowledge about the many facets of our business and brands, and is very well prepared to be president and chief creative officer. I think this is a great thing, Dave, because a lot of organizations now have split up the CEO role, to business and creative, segments, which I think is great. You need both in order to run a company properly, I think, because not everybody is as skilled or astute in one or the other. You need one that has great creative vision. You have one that has great business acumen to work together, right?
No, I agree with you. I think that one of the things that's been unusual in my mind is that the Walt Disney Company hadn't had a president for a long time. You had the CEO and then you had division chiefs, you know what I mean? But
Yes.
I think it's important that a company have that title in there, the president. Normally it's the president and chief operating officer, it's the business side of things. But there was a disastrous effort with Michael Ovitz to make him a president of the Walt Disney Company, if you remember way back when, and it cost the company a huge amount of money to pay that out. I think it's great that they have a president in place now, and you have your CEO, and they have strong leadership across those big divisions. It'll be interesting to see who gets named as the chairman of the Parks and Resorts group once Josh transitions to the CEO position. But you know what? The company's got a lot of great momentum right now, and I don't expect any upheaval in the foreseeable future. I think what they do need to do is focus on getting that stock price back up.
I think so. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, over the past few months or past few weeks, rather, they've got the Benjamin Swinburne to be the EVP of Investor Relations and Corporate Strategy, new marketing chiefs and brand officers. So, like the company is going through this transition, and a smooth one at that, which I commend them for. They're not going to be ruffling any feathers. These people, as you said, there's one waiting in the wings, and they're continually training up these people, and with their long-term investment in YouTube and open AI research and AI streaming stuff on Disney Plus by the end of the year, I mean, that's a lot of moves that Disney's making in the future of the
Yeah.
brand. So
Yeah. No, it's great. It's all good stuff. So
yep. Well, looking forward to seeing what happens next. Dave, you talked about the Walt Disney Imagineering documentary on Disneyland, and now people can stream all episodes of We Call It Imagineering now on Disney Plus. So if you want to check it out, you should. I have definitely earmarked it and saw just a little glimpse, but I'm looking forward to reporting on it this week. All 7 episodes of We Call It Imagineering now on Disney Plus and on the Imagineering YouTube channel, which is really great. So please check it out. There's deep dives into audio animatronics, soundscapes, the rides and vehicles, about bringing on a show, and all the different attractions and the R&D that goes into it. So these are really quick watches. Some of them are about 20 minutes long. So definitely a must see if you haven't seen it already. Please check it out. All right, Dave. And let's see, American Idol. So, Dave, I don't know if you've been checking out American Idol. I find clips of the show to be very entertaining, especially during the initial audition period. But it looks like they are now doing live viewing experiences on Disney Plus. So, Dave, ESPN is, of course, has been a leader in streaming live, along with stuff they've been doing for WWE and Dancing with the Stars, and now American Idol as well. As of course they have, alongside its traditional broadcast on ABC, they're expanding by doing live streaming on Disney Plus at the same time, coinciding with American Idol for these live shows on Disney Plus and Hulu. So every week you'll be able to check it out. And of course, the podcast will offer more deep dives into the judges and the judges' critiques. So there's kind of an after show element in there as well. So check out American Idol, and it seems to just continually gain steam. The train that continues to roll on. Dave, this is an interesting story as well. Timothy Busfield has been indicted on 4 counts of criminal sexual contact of a child in New Mexico and denies allegations. So, Dave, this is a story that continues to kind of pop up on feeds. Timothy is 68, and there has been a lot of alleged mis I guess, going on during the TV show The Cleaning Lady between November 2022 and 2024. And these cases will be prosecuted by the SVU of Bernalillo County District Attorney's Office. I mean, what's going on with this? This seems to...
I honestly, everything I've read about this is pointing to that this is retribution because they recast those kids. And look, I believe people are innocent until they're proven guilty. I think that, it's going to be really interesting to see this, how this turns out, because, Aljon, when you're on a movie set, there are a lot of people. And all I can say is that, the parents are there, with children that are underage. There's chaperones, there's production people, there's all kinds of people. So I'm going to be real curious to find out what happens here, because, he was let out on bail because there were production people that testified saying, look, he was never alone with these kids.
Yeah.
So it's really going to be interesting why a grand jury came back with an indictment, if it's just on people's testimony, and then that testimony is going to be refuted and shown to be false in the court. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't really want to believe that this is anything more than some kind of retribution because those kids were recast.
Well, we will be following this story, and we will see.
The court system, I still have faith in it, so we'll see how this all turns out.
Exactly. We sure will. Wrap up for the Grammys, Dave. Did you catch any of it at all? This
I'm really not interested in most of these award shows.
I agree. I'm not a big fan of award shows anymore, but I will say that Song of the Year, Wildflower by Billie Eilish, with Record of the Year, Luther by Kendrick Lamar, Best New Artist, Olivia Dean, Album of the Year by Bad Bunny, Youngblood for best young rock performance, and Nuno Betancourt featuring Adam Wakeman from the what changes from Back to the Beginning, which is the Ozzy Osbourne tribute, which was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Nine Inch Nails wins for a lot as alive as you need to be, which is Trent Reznor. You know, Trent Reznor has done a lot for the Tron soundtrack and working with
Yeah.
Disney the past few years. And best metal performance, Turnstile with Birds, which Turnstile is a great band. We have here now, Dave.
Skull Rock Podcast.
You know, you're like that little arrow on your hat, straight and shining, and that's the way I'll always remember you.
I'll always remember you. I'll always remember you.
I'll always remember you, Sharon.
They hang you, I'll always remember you.
In memoriam.
All right, Dave. In the roll call for this week, designing women actor 83 Camilla Carr. And Dave, this is very sad because she has a very long list of credits. Starting with the designing women. She's been in a lot of different things, as well as Don't Look in the Basement, Poor White Trash Part 2, and Keep My Grave Open.
Keep My Grave Open. Come on, Aljon, you had to have seen that.
I have seen that. I have seen that. Does it surprise you?
No, it doesn't. In fact, when I read this obituary and I saw Keep My Grave Open as one of the films she was in, I started laughing, and I knew right off the bat you had seen that one.
Absolutely. So anyway, may she rest in peace. Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely stuff you need to check out. And then we also have in the world of music, Brad Arnold from Three Doors Down, the singer who, gave life to songs like Be Like That and Kryptonite and Here Without You, had passed away from, I believe, cancer. And it wasn't just a regular cancer. I believe he had kidney cancer. He fronted the band from the age of 15, selling over 30 million records worldwide. I mean, this band really broke open during the 2000s. And, I played, in a former life, Dave, I was an FM DJ in modern rock radio, and I played tons of Three Doors Down. They did tons of shows, and I've worked with their guitar team before, and Brad is just a phenomenal, nice guy, great talent, and it's so sad to see him die, 47 years of age, gone too soon.
Wow, way too soon.
Absolutely. Oh, Dave, another rock bassist known for his work with TV and later the band Blondie, art rock scene bass player Fred Smith passes away at the age of 77, and there is no cause of death publicized for that. Fred Smith, for sure. And there was another person that had passed away in there as well. And this is just in. This is immense Cake guitarist Greg Brown passed away. Dave, you remember the song The Distance that kind of came out in the late 90s? He's going the distance.
Yeah.
For speed. Yeah. So that guitar player passed away just now, just reported February 7th as we record this just yesterday. And the band broke it on social media, and it's very sad. I mean, I remember the band Cake, with songs that came out in the late 90s, Going the Distance and so much more. And it's very, very, very difficult for the band at this time. Founding member of the band Cake, Greg Brown, passes away.
Yeah. And they say, of a brief illness. I want to know what this brief illness, all these people have a brief illness. I want to know what it is.
Yeah, who knows? I guess we're going to find out in the days to come, but it's very sad with these rock stars passing away. But anyway, that wraps up the obituary roll call for this week. May they rest in peace. And now here's our tribute to Roger Allers. This comes to us from our interview all the way back in 2021, August of 2021, Dave. Dave talks to Roger Allers.
And I really, I hope our listeners enjoy hearing from Roger. And, he was such an upbeat, positive person. It was always wonderful to be around him because there was always lots of laughter and just a very, very nice person. It was just such a pleasure to work with him. So I hope our listeners enjoy this interview.
Absolutely. Sit back and relax and enjoy this tribute right here on Skull Rock Podcast.
Let's do it.
Hey, let's chat.
Let's chat afterwards. Let's chat. And he said, let's chat again.
Skull Rock Podcast. Interview time.
Well, Aljon, once again, we have a fabulous guest on the Skull Rock Podcast. We've got my old friend Roger Allers, who is a film director, a screenwriter, a storyboard artist, an animator, and a playwright. And he has the distinction of being the co-director of The Lion King, which is the highest grossing traditional animated film of all time. And he's worked on so many different things. I want to welcome Roger. I want to welcome you to the show here at Skull Rock Podcast. It's so great to see you.
Great. Yeah. Be a little applause for you there. And also a voice
from our studio audience.
I was going to say, and also a voice for radio, Roger. You have an amazing voice.
Thanks, Aljon.
Yes.
Roger, it's great to have you on the show. And I really want to start with something that a lot of our audience would probably not necessarily remember. But you started out early in your animation career working on character development, story, and animation for Animal Olympics, which I remember. Animal Olympics. It's from like from 1980.
Yeah, actually the end of the 70s.
Yes.
At the end of the 70s. I had been, my first job was at a studio in Boston, a little studio called Lisberger Studios, Steve Lisberger's place. And we did children's television, openings to TV shows, things like that, commercials and things. And our first feature idea that we were going to put together was this idea of Animal Olympics, the Olympics all done with animals. And it was going to be, the idea was it was going to be intercut between the actual Olympics. That was going to be, when was that, 1980? Or
there was the 84 Los Angeles Olympics.
There was the one before that.
So it would have been the 1980 Olympics.
1980, right.
Yeah.
Which, it was great fun. We started in Boston, couldn't find enough people out there. Although I remember Henry Selick came through and showed a reel while we were there. But gathered some people and then Steve decided to move it to California. So we all moved to Venice Beach, to a little studio there. And that was quite a switch from Boston.
Wow. Venice Beach was very different back then, I'm imagining, because nowadays it's a refugee camp.
Well, I know. Well, it's gone through several changes in the last few decades. That's for sure. But then it was a very freewheeling, like I guess it always is kind of freewheeling. Kind of the end of the hippie days and the beginning of the roller skating craze. It was really a fun place to come to. Anyway, a little studio there, and we worked on the film, and there were lots of sort of Disney refugees at the time. There was Bill Croyer and Brad Bird and Chuck Harvey. And of course, I'm missing people, and I'll think of them as I go along. But so we were all out in a little tiny building and having a great time. Before we finished, Russia invaded Afghanistan. And to protest that, President Carter at the time decided we would not go to the Olympics. And then, boom, the Olympics coverage went down. We had put this whole thing together. So it didn't.
Wow. So it just imploded.
It did. What they managed to do is they put it together. We were doing the winter and the summer, and they managed to put it together as a video. And I think then it found a home on cable TV because people had told me, oh, yeah, I used to watch that as a kid. That's funny.
That is always funny. That's amazing. I want to step back just brief before you started your animation career, because there was a little tidbit while I was doing a little research on you, and you and I have known each other for many years, but I did not know that you lived in a cave in Greece.
Uh-huh.
Can you just elaborate on that slightly?
Sure.
What he's not telling you.
You graduated college and then took a couple of years to travel Europe or travel around Greece?
Well, actually, I finished college, finished university, and with a couple of friends, decided to go traveling, mainly because I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. I wanted to be an animator. applied to Arts Center, wasn't accepted, and wound up just getting, just staying in Arizona at the time. Went to Arizona State University and got a fine arts degree. So just majored in drawing and painting. So I did not study animation like I wanted to do. And at the end of that, I could draw and paint and all that. And I thought, what the hell am I going to do with my life? How am I going to earn a living? And then I had a friend, who said, hey, let's go traveling. So, that sounds like a good idea. So 3 of us went traveling around Europe, backpacking and hitchhiking. This was like 1971. And
back when hitchhiking was relatively safe.
Yeah. Well, I had been hitchhiking all over the U.S. as well at that time.
Yeah.
So, it was great fun, actually. You met all sorts of interesting people. Had a terrifying ride on the Autobahn in Germany. Oh, my God, it drove so fast. But, and then we wound up just 2 of us, ultimately, and my other friend, who was also a painter and all that. We both had always wanted to go to Crete. So we went down to Greece. And, I was interested in the Minoan culture. And we went to Crete and found our way to a little tiny town on the south coast of Crete and rented a little place for like $5 a day or something. The prices were so cheap. And it was wonderful. We just loved this town and loved Crete and everything. And in my friend's explorations, he discovered a cave about 1.5 miles down the coast, which had been used by a shepherd. So it kind of had a little fencing over the front and a gate, and it was huge inside. And he went, we could live there for free. Yay. So we moved into the cave, and we lived in the cave. I guess it was at least a month or 2. Yeah, it was like 2 months. Really.
And how was that experience for you? I mean, was that a life-changing experience to do that kind of a thing?
Well, my whole time in Crete was honestly a very life-changing experience. I don't know what it was, but it was something about that place. The name of the town was Paleohora, which means ancient town. So it was built, some of the buildings they said were even on like Minoan foundations, like really ancient foundations. And there was an energy to this place, which was just amazing. It was a really, really creative and just an amazing time. And living in the cave I had certainly never done that. We had no running water. We had to cart our water in from, hike it in from town, about 1.5 miles, cooked out over a fire. The cave was just opposite a little dirt road. And on the other side, it was just a stony beach that went down into the sea. So it was beautiful. And the temperature was constant. In the cave, I really understood why people lived in caves in the early days. It could be hot, it could be cold outside. The temperature inside the cave was always the same. Wow. You were like a nice, cool bottle of wine, what you were.
Did it give you a sense of direction sitting there? So staying in that cave and spending the time there, did it give you the opportunity to think about what it is you wanted to do when you eventually got back to the U.S.?
It's funny. Absolutely not.
Really?
Absolutely not. Yeah. For one thing, I've never been very good about planning things. Looking into the future in any sort of way has been a great deficit of mine. It's really almost an exalted fault of mine that I live in the moment pretty much all the time, which gives you a lot of pleasure in certain things and can lead to trouble in other areas. So no, I didn't. I just lived life then very full. And at the time, and being there, we lived there in that cave for 2 months. Then we planned we were going to go to India. And with a bunch of friends, we got too drunk that night. And the car that was driving us back to town went off a bridge, and we all wound up in the hospital. And my friend was almost died. He went home. I'm all broken bones and wound up having to stay in Crete because I couldn't really travel, with a backpack and a broken collarbone and cracked ribs and things. So,
wow. So
I wound up staying there, and I wound up living there a whole year. And in the spring, I met who was to be my wife. She came through traveling, and I met her, and we got together there. So it was,
and she's an American, right?
Yeah, she had just finished the Peace Corps and was traveling with some friends, and we met and kind of.
And the rest is history, as they say, right?
History, yeah.
Well, so you get back to the U.S. and you got involved with Steve at that point.
Actually, I got back to the U.S. I still didn't have a direction. I was sort of back in my hometown. I didn't know what I was going to do to earn money. I went back to the university because I had lots of life drawing classes, when I was in there. And then I did modeling for life drawing to earn money. And then finally, this is sort of my wife and I sort of went, we weren't married yet. She had gone back to school on the East Coast. I went back to Arizona, and then she came traveling, sort of picked me up on the way. And then the two of us with another friend hitched up the West Coast all the way from San Diego up to Seattle, and then took a ferry up through Alaska. Anyway, still, wandering hippies is what we were, and wound up finally in Boston. And then that's where I learned about a studio. I was just working in a frame shop, and I think I'd hitched a ride into Harvard Square, and somebody asked, what would you really like to do? I said, I always wanted to be an animator. And they went, well, you should see, what was his name? Olson, his name. We'll go right on my head.
Steve?
No. Someone who taught animation at Harvard. He said, go talk to this guy. So I did. And being young and kind of naive, I went to him and I said, well, I'm not a student here, but can I take your class even though I'm not being a student at Harvard? And after talking to me for a while, and he said, well, go off and design a little idea for like a 15-second film or something. And I did, and brought it back and said, okay, you can sit in my class and you can make your film. And so I had a class of animation at Harvard, and it was around that time. Yeah, I like to tell people, I went to Harvard. And at that time,
you did go to Harvard, even if it was for one class. You went to Harvard.
Eric Martin was his name.
Oh, yeah. That name sounds familiar.
Well, I think he also, after that semester, he decided to go west, and I think he wound up having a position at Cal Arts.
That's probably where I know him from.
Yeah. I actually finally looked him up years later to talk to him and to sort of thank him for getting me on my feet for animation. But it was around that same time that I heard about the studio, Lisberger Studios, and got a job with them. So with no training really, other than I got from Disneyland in the late 50s as a kid. I went there, and there was a place called what was it called? I don't know, but they showed the art of animation. It was in Tomorrowland. And it showed you all about animation. It was wonderful. It was like I was in heaven when I looked at that thing. And I sent away for an animation kit from Disneyland. I must have been like 8 or 9 years old. And it had instruction booklets on stretch and squash and timing and drawing the characters. And I built my own little light table, and they sent you the materials to do that. And so I basically taught myself everything I could learn up with that limited material. And when I started working, I just took that knowledge and learned as I worked. So the small enough studio that basically everyone did everything.
It's amazing in talking to all of the artists that we've interviewed so far. Everybody eventually gravitates to the one teacher, that one person that kind of pointed them in the direction. And I'm hearing, you mentioned Eric Martin as being that person that kind of set you on your path to animation. Yeah. And it really is wonderful to hear that, because those individuals, those mentors or teachers, are so important when you're in your formative years.
Yeah, so true. So true.
So you come out to Los Angeles, you do Animal Olympics, and then from there, after the studio sort of finishes up on that project, you went over to Disney to work on Tron?
No, there was a more twisty road than that. My career in life has gone here and there and here and there. After Animal Olympics, then we started developing Tron there at that studio.
Oh, okay.
It was before it went to Disney. So Steve had gotten all excited about computer-generated stuff. I mean, this was in its absolute infancy.
Yeah.
Really, it was only being used kind of for military training films at that point. And I remember, so he got this idea of doing a movie with a character inside a computer. And we started, after Animal Olympics, we started developing that as a film. And we went around to all the computer-generated places in LA and talked to them and looked at, what they did, tried to learn about how computers worked. We had... who was the guy who came to the studio? Alan Kay. He was one of the early developers of, the personal computer. He went in and told us about, we're working on this thing where, it's going to be, like a briefcase, and in it, you're going to be able to open it up and be attached to any library in the entire world. You'll be connected to all that info. And we were all going, wow, that sounds great. Because computers at that point were like, gigantic things.
And they were used for used for military purposes and big corporations and stuff. It wasn't necessarily for art.
No. All these places we went, there were like pictures of tanks and, simulated flying, really simplified stuff. And then the video games were starting up just at that time, just simple stuff like Pong and Space Invaders, So we would go around and find every little video game that we could find. Anyway, it was great fun and developed the story and everything. But I had promised my wife that we'd go traveling after Animal Olympics. So I stayed and worked on developing the Tron thing for a while. And then we left to go traveling. And our 3-year-old daughter took off to go traveling around Europe. And while I was gone, the studio closed down, and then that's when Steve took it to Disney, took it up there. But by that time, when I came back from traveling, that still hadn't happened. So I wound up, from staying with friends in Boston, I found a job up in Canada, and I went to Nelvana.
Oh, yeah, Nelvana. Yeah, up in Toronto, right?
Mm-hmm. And lived in Toronto for 2 years and worked on Rock and Rule. Another film that hardly has seen its audience, a lot of work and a lot of things that didn't see their audience. Because after Nelvana was great. I met a lot of fantastic animators up there. They were terrific people. And then after that, basically closed down, and I couldn't get my work visa renewed. I was looking for other work, and
who was Charlie Bonifacio? And Chuck Gamage.
And Robin Budd.
Yeah, there was a whole slew of really
Anne-Marie
great.
Bardwell.
Yeah, Anne-Marie Bardwell. I remember her. Yeah, absolutely.
Some guy named Tom Cito. You might have heard of him.
we had Tom on the show a couple months ago.
That's where I met Tom. I remember at one point being in a large room animating. He'd come in every morning. Well, on this day in 1648, and he'd tell these stories. I loved it. I just thought it was the best. I love historical stories. Awesome. Anyway, so I did that, and then needed to find other work, and then got hired to work on Little Nemo in Japan.
Ah, wow.
And Robin Budd, one of the animators from Canada, he also got hired onto that. So we went with our families to Tokyo to work on Little Nemo. I mean, first we worked in LA for about 9 months, and then we went on to Tokyo. So that was a really fascinating life experience and a really frustrating work experience. It was a movie that really had a hard time finding its feet. And we worked there for 2 years, and the thing really had not really gotten the green light. Put in a lot of work, but met interesting people who got kept coming through.
Sure.
Like everybody and their kid brother worked on that movie.
I think that was an interesting time because there were people in the animation business that really were circulating around the world almost,
People were working everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, at that time, everyone went to find where the work was. So we were all gypsies, we were all wandering itinerant workers, Do you miss Korea and England and, Canada and Tokyo, everywhere.
Do you miss that lifestyle or did you feel like you got it out of your system at that time?
I think, I had another kid. So, I think, having a family, it's not easy toting a family around. And so after Japan, when I came to California and got hired at Disney, then it felt nice to put down
some roots,
and stop moving it was like an average of every 2 years moving. And that takes a lot of energy.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So when you got hired at Disney, what was the first project you were working on?
Oliver and Company.
It was Oliver and Company. Okay.
Yeah, because my friend Dave Steffen was at the studio.
Yeah.
He was from Lisberger, and he was saying, "You've got to come. You've got to come. They really need a story artist." So I came and interviewed with George Scribner and Don Hahn, and they had lost their story artist. Pete Young had died.
Yeah. Pete had passed away, and in fact, it's funny. I had lunch with George today, and Pete came up in the conversation just because I'm working on a little something with George, and we were talking about that time period. So that's really great. You started on Oliver and Company and worked in story, and you primarily stayed in story for the most part. You did some early animation on Nemo and Rock and Rule, but your track really was as a story artist.
Well, all my previous work, like at Lisberger, it was story and animation. At Nelvana, it was all animation. In Tokyo on Little Nemo, it was going to be animation, but it mostly turned out to be story. And then when I got to Disney, that was the position that was open. So I loved story, actually. So I was really happy to work in that capacity. And when I started there, I had Vance Gary on one side of me and Gary Trousdale on the other side. It was so much fun.
Oh, Vance is, what a legendary artist. Story artist he was. Just a tremendous guy.
So much just from going into his room and just looking at his boards.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would do that after he had left. At the end of the day, I just go in there and just sit and look at his boards and just learn. Because, Vance I wouldn't call him a teacher. He never, would start telling you how to do things or anything.
He was a very quiet guy.
A really quiet guy, but with a lovely sense of humor. But it was just looking at his boards and seeing how he communicated, especially his uses of how using a simple division of space into lights and darks. They were so dramatic and they always told a story. Just his use of lights and darks. He was brilliant.
George made the comment that both Vance and Pete Young had this ability to use the most minimal amount of lines, but the lines they put down were like, it was perfect. It told the story for that panel.
Yeah. No, that's an art in itself. That's for sure.
Yeah. And, I don't want to step through every single project because I know we have a limited amount of time, but you did do storyboard work on The Little Mermaid and Rescuers Down Under and Prince and the Pauper, again, with George directing. And you then became head of story on Beauty and the Beast.
Yep.
And did story work on Aladdin. How did the whole Lion King come about, where you transitioned really from story to director?
Well, it really happened during Beauty and the Beast. Because I don't know if with that movie, especially I think because Howard, even though we didn't know it at the time, was ill. So he was requesting all of the meetings to take place in New York. So all of we story people would do all of our work on the storyboards, take them all down and reassemble, fly to New York. The whole story crew would fly to New York, go up to Fishkill, New York, where Howard was, and set up all these boards and pitch them. And then he and Alan would also be playing us the songs that they had been working on. And they would review our work, and there was a lot of communication. And just, we worked so closely with them, with Howard and Alan on that movie.
Did you learn a lot from Howard?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, so much.
And from your standpoint, what do you think his strengths really were? He was a great lyricist, obviously, but he was a great storyteller, wasn't he?
Well, that was one of the things, too, is that, and in his songwriting, it always was storytelling, as funny and amusing as the lyrics could be, it was still furthering the story. his songs rarely were about, let's stop the movie now and just get out on our tap shoes and do something. You know what I mean? It always had a theme or a conflict of characters or whatever that was moving the story forward. He was brilliant in that way. And it was his understanding of Broadway musicals and their structure. And he saw how related animated films and Broadway musicals, how related the two forms were. He delivered a lecture fairly early on in the studio, which was brilliant about that. And, talking about a character's I Want song, talking about, at what point in the film through conflict, there's this sort of song, and then there's, everything was always about moving a story forward. And, he was amazing to work with.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great loss, I thought. I think everybody felt, because you just imagine what he could have accomplished had he not passed away when he did.
I know. Yeah. Well, what's interesting, just to look on the bright side of it, is, boy, did this guy work hard in those last few years. I mean, think about when he started working on Little Mermaid, which, while I was working on Oliver and Company, I was hearing Alan and Howard like a room or two over playing on the piano and working up these songs. And I was thinking, oh my God, I have to work on this movie. This is fantastic. But, so they were doing that in the late 80s, right? And then when did he die? By 91, was it? I mean, he just had a really short time, like 4 years, possibly 5 years. And in that time, he did Little Mermaid, he did Beauty and the Beast, he did Aladdin. Yeah. I don't know, those were huge accomplishments. Yeah. And so he did use his short time.
So as head of story, when did The Lion King sort of start to seep in?
Well, one of the things that was doing it to me was like some of the people that I was working with kept saying to me, you should direct. People were saying that to me. I always thought, boy, directors never get to go home. I'm not sure I ever want to be a director,
And especially at Disney, because there's the development directors and then there's the directors, right? So, you're always hesitant to be the first director on a show.
That's true. I think I let those people's opinions creep into my head. And so I remember one time, I don't know what it was, some sort of a review board or something. And I said to Peter Schneider, well, I've been thinking, it might be interesting to direct if, ever would think of something that I could do. And that, he said, okay, I'll think about that. So I put the
bug in his ear. You put the bug in his ear.
Yeah. And then basically while I was working on Aladdin, I got a call from Jeffrey saying he wanted me to team up with George on King of the Jungle, it was called.
Right. That was the original title. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I had worked with George a little bit, with George and Linda Wolverton when they were first developing the idea, but got off of it to go help it on Aladdin because it was at that point in production where they were having some major rewrites and trying to get
tearing sequences down and redoing stuff. Yeah, like every movie
goes through it. Yeah. So I went off and worked with them on that, and it was after that. So I don't know. Jeffrey was a hard person to argue against. I was because I had been thinking about I had been working on another idea for a film. I was hoping maybe to get going, but you went, no, do this now. So there I was.
Yeah, it was always do this one now. We'll talk about your idea later.
That's exactly it. Right. Right. That you can do later, but this. Yeah.
So you start working on The Lion King, and obviously there's some changes that happen on that project, and Rob Minkoff comes on to co-direct with you, and George moved on to some other projects, and you got through that film. I mean, did you that was a film, as I recall, at the studio that a lot of animators were trying to bypass to get onto Pocahontas. I mean, I'm sure you remember that.
I do, because I remember how difficult it was to try to amass a crew.
Yeah.
And Jeffrey had said, he knew Pocahontas and he knew that was going to be a great story, and he was all for it. He said, Lion King, I'm not too sure, if you've heard all those stories,
Sure.
If you guys can, make 50 million at the box office, well, I'll get down on my knees for you, but I'm not sure where this is, So he wasn't really sure about it, but he was in thick with Pocahontas, so everybody was jumping on the Pocahontas bandwagon, and Glenn went on that, and of course Glenn, you throw that great weight of talent into the gravity pool, and all the other everyone else goes in with it, So it wasn't easy getting people together, but we had a fantastic crew on Lion King, actually, and some people who got their first chances, to lead characters like Mike Surrey and Tony Bancroft
and Alan Woodbury, right?
Alan Woodbury for Zazu, and we had a great crew. I mean, Ruben Aquino, who was super solid, doing Simba, and Tony Fucilli doing Mufasa, and James Baxter doing Rafiki. I mean, is stunning, and of course Andreas doing Scar. We had not a lightweight team at all. So.
No, not at all, not at all. But it just goes to show you, though, when like sometimes these films, as they're developing, people are like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know how this film will do," and you're conveying the story of Jeffrey saying, "Well, if it made this much, I'd really be thrilled," And here it is, we're a quarter century later plus, and that film is the highest grossing traditionally animated film of all time. And who would have thought, right?
Yeah.
When you were in production.
You can't know these things while you're doing them. As a matter of fact, the process is often so scary because you just have no idea if this is going to be any good. As a matter of fact, I remember it was pretty imposing because we had all these movies before us that were huge, Little Mermaid and
then Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin.
And Aladdin, it was like boom, 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 going up this ladder of success. And it was like, wow, we're going to be lucky if we can pull this thing off. And so you're always just hoping for the best. You want to do your best. But it was a hard start. It was a hard start, definitely.
And it was a challenging picture, too, because it was most of the characters are quadrupeds.
Yeah.
And that is more challenging for animators to get those walks and runs done properly.
That's right. I mean, I was just thinking there were really only 3 that could walk on 2 legs. That was Zazu, who mostly flew, and Rafiki and Timon.
Yeah.
Everyone else was a quadruped, and animal movement takes a lot of study to pull it off.
And if you don't get it right, people notice it's not right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
everyone has been brought up on, if not being around animals, watching all the nature films and everything. We've taken that all into our subconscious and feel when it's right.
Mutual of Omaha is Animal Kingdom, remember?
Sure.
I mean, those were great shows.
Roll 'em! It is now 22 minutes before the hour. I'm over 50 years old, and every time Disney comes out with a new animated movie, I rush off to see it. And all this week, we're going to be looking at the magic that has created the new Disney animated feature. It is called The Lion King. And for the last 3 years, the studio has kept its pencils and brushes working hard, making him roar. If you like The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin, well, you ain't seen nothing yet.
So you get done with Lion King. It's a huge success. And did you, I'm curious if right after Lion King, you started developing a new project, or did you start to write the book for the Broadway version of Lion King? Which came first?
The next film.
Okay.
After I finished Lion King, Tom Schumacher had me into his office and said, well, thinking about next things for you. And he said they were interested in maybe trying to set something in a culture south of the border in one of the either the Central or South America cultures. And on a board, he had 3 images, and one was something from the Aztec culture, one was something from the Mayan culture, and the other one was from the Incan culture. And the Incan photograph that they had up there was of Machu Picchu, and with a close-up of some of the stonework, you know, that amazing stonework that's all cut to fit all these shapes of stones that intricately fit together, and this city that's high above the clouds with the clouds drifting through. And I just thought, wow, that is such an intriguing, romantic image. I'd love to develop something that has to do with that culture. Also, it was interesting because around that time, I don't know why, there seemed to be a lot of roving bands of musicians playing Incan music, you know, the Peruvian music. I remember down on Venice Beach or in Santa Monica, I would run into them, and it was a music that I had been familiar with, and it has this infectious rhythm, you know, these sort of hippity-skippity rhythms, you know, and the panpipes and all of that. I found that music really exciting, and I thought, ooh, it'd be fantastic to do a movie and weave the sound of that kind of music in to this setting, you know, these cities in the sky, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
So then I just started researching the culture and, you know, looking up the images and trying to get an idea for a story to support it.
And you came up with what you ultimately titled Kingdom of the Sun.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that story? Because I think our audience is really unaware of this film, and it's something I just have these vivid memories of seeing the development art hanging on boards in the building. And I just thought how lush and beautiful it looked.
Yeah.
And, you know, you and I, when we were talking about booking you on as a guest, you know, we talked briefly about it. And I'd love for you to just describe the story, if you would, to the audience.
Sure. Well, I mean, it was going to be a fairly simple story. Although, I mean, I kind of was stealing from there's a book and a movie called
It'll come to you.
It'll come. It's not Prince and the Pauper, which people are always quoting that one, but this one, crap, now I can't remember the title of it. Anyway, it's basically about a guy whose cousin is a prince, who's kind of a dissolute character, and he meets him by accident in a tavern, and this guy, they have a likeness to each other, and the prince winds up getting kidnapped, and the cousin has to fill in for him, and then there's a love interest of a princess, and the two of them actually fall in love. She's being forced into this marriage, you know, politically, and doesn't really like the prince. But then when she meets him and he seems different, they actually fall in love. So that was the story I was stealing from. And using that template, I thought, all right, well, I'll make the main character a llama herder, because the llama is such a symbol of, you know, of those people and of the Peruvian Andes and all that. So and then that means, you know, he could be a sympathetic character. He has this way with animals, and the animals, you know, respond to him. And so he's like the lowest of the low, right? And he winds up through circumstances going to the capital city, and then there's an exchange that happens, you know, and the arrogant prince falls afoul of, I had a high priestess who's something of a sorceress and had cast Eartha Kitt to play her. And so this high priestess has a beef against. Here the whole culture is sort of the worship of the sun, right? The sun is the great god, and yet she has a beef with the sun because he just ages her and wrinkles her, and she wishes to have her beauty back, and she's going to make a deal with this bottled up. It's not exactly a god; it's kind of a force, an ancient force of chaos, right? Which ruled before the world came into being, and so for that, I invented also. So she's going to let loose this darkness and take over the world. So that simple little plot there. But before that, so in order to support that, I did sort of a myth that set the whole movie going, and it told the story of when the Earth was young and the universe was chaos, and Viracocha, the earliest man sort of / god, saw, there was all this chaos, and he took a rope and he threw it to a distant star, and he pulled the star towards the earth, and that star was Inti, the sun god, and that brought order, and then the darkness was trapped under the earth, and then crops grew, and it was really beautiful. And I had gotten Sting to do the songs, and he did this beautiful creation myth song. And of course, here I'm going to be forgetting everybody's name. Marcel, he's a Hungarian artist who did, oh dear. Anyway, it's not terrible. Old age is a terrible thing. Lost your memory of names in the moment. Anyway, came and did these beautiful visuals of, the planet sort of coming alive.
Yeah.
All to this music. So we had mythology, we had a love story of where, Pacha, the llama herder, falls in love with the princess. We have the wicked sorceress, discovering his secret and trying to pull them apart and all this sort of thing, and save the prince who's been turned into a llama from being killed. That's the sort of thing. So it was going to have romance, it was going to have adventure, it was going to have magic and mythology, and kind of celebrate the culture of the Incas, because
sure.
we did manage a trip down to Peru and traveled and went to Machu Picchu and looked at the amazing stonework and all the beautiful textiles. The colors and the designs were so exciting, and to work those into the fabric of the film was going to be exciting. And people were doing beautiful, beautiful designs.
And that the fact that you went on the research trip, I mean, I can't emphasize enough how important those types of trips have been and are for making animated films that are set in these types of locations. I know on Lion King you all went to Africa to do the safari once or twice. You went twice, didn't you?
No,
Africa?
we just went once. It was a 3-week trip around Kenya and visiting various sites, and doing it mostly in a Range Rover with no roof, so you could be out there among all the animals, watching lionesses hunting zebras and cheetahs and their young hunting, and getting a really up close view of all the animals and the landscapes. We brought back so much material and inspiration from Africa, not to mention some of the language, the Swahili, some of that, some of the phrases I learned there became part of the movie. Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata.
So it was really invaluable. But I think for the productions, that go to the place, it's beyond what you can just pick up from a book. There's like a spirit of a place. There's a feeling of when you're in the landscapes.
It's the soul of it.
It really, it animates it in a very deep way. I think everyone is always quite influenced by their.
So you had the same experience, obviously, going to Machu Picchu and to Peru and all of that, and you guys brought back tons and tons of not only artwork and drawings done on the spot, but photographic reference.
Oh yeah. It was quite an exciting trip, and it was beautiful stuff that was being developed for the film, and then the film didn't happen. Then the execs decided they didn't want to do that.
Was it that they wanted to do something more cartoony and comedy, or what was their thinking?
Well, what was interesting is also during the time I'm working on this movie, they started developing The Lion King for the stage.
Yeah,
early on. So also while I'm developing Kingdom of the Sun, Julie Taymor started developing The Lion King for the stage. And she came in and presented some of her new ideas for stuff she wanted to do to enlarge The Lion King. And Don Hahn and Peter and Tom suggested that Irene Mecchi, who was a writer on the movie, Lion King, worked with Julie in terms of developing the story. So we were going to spend a week with her and and we would, since we were so familiar with the movie. And so we did. We spent a very productive week, structuring the story, opening it up in places. And at the end of that time, she said that she had been thinking she was going to get a writer to do the show. She said, but Irene and I could just jump into character at a moment's notice. We had these characters living in our heads.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys write it? And we went, okay. So while working on Kingdom of the Sun, Irene and I were also writing the book for the musical, The Lion King. So that was a busy time.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious to ask you, what was your initial reaction when Tom and Peter said, "Hey, we're going to make The Lion King a stage production"?
Well, I remember it was actually a bunch of us, key people who worked on Lion King, were invited to a lunch with Michael Eisner. And during this lunch, the last thing he dropped on us was, well, The Lion King has been so successful as a film. I mean, it had only been out for, I don't know, like a month or two, but it was,
it was a hit. Everybody knew it was a hit.
And he said, and Beauty and the Beast has done a great business on Broadway. I think we really should turn The Lion King into a Broadway musical. Now, he said, what do you all think about it? Well, every individual around that table all said, we think it's a terrible idea. We think it's a terrible idea, Michael. We had joked while we were working on the movie, well, they'll never make this into a musical because all we could picture were people prancing about the stage dressed in fuzzy costumes. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like little TJs. It was just like, it just seemed like it was going to be terrible. And when we all expressed our opinion that it would not translate well to stage, then Michael said, well, I want to do it anyway. He asked us all our opinion. We all said no. And he said, we're going to do it anyway. And then he sent Tom off to find somebody to head it up. And luckily, Tom was familiar with Julie Taymor and her really creative, idiosyncratic way of interpreting things. And he asked her to do it. And she brought this whole sense of the idea of characters wearing masks on the top of their heads, the actors' faces being visible, really reinterpreting it through much more creative lens than, zipping people up into furry costumes. So,
I mean, Michael had some crazy ideas over the years, but he also had a lot of really good ideas.
Yeah, well, I think his instinct was right there.
Yeah, because I've seen the play a number of times on Broadway, and I have to tell you, I was skeptical. I was one of those people like, really? They're going to do Lion? And when I went to see it, I thought, my gosh, this is fantastic.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful, and it's certainly been seen by a lot of people. And I remember the first night we were doing tech and all in Minnesota, and we had our first preview night, right, where we did it in front of a live audience.
Yeah.
And when sitting in a theater full of people for the first time, and the show started, and Rafiki sings the chant, and then when the animals started walking down the aisles, the excitement in the theater was so intense. It was so intense. It was a life-changing moment. I mean, it brought you to tears. People were so thrilled and so excited about that. And the whole Circle of Life number culminating up on the stage,
it's breathtaking.
It's breathtaking. It's beautiful and it's artistic and original, and it carried the spirit of the film and the spirit of the music, so it was so exciting. And I think people still, have that response to it. And
Tom told me once that The Lion King on Broadway and all of the traveling shows around the world has grossed more than all the Star Wars movies put together.
That's
just to put it in context.
Yeah,
that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, really.
And it's still going strong. It's still selling out shows. That's the amazing thing about it, right?
Yeah, it is. It's amazing.
My gosh.
I mean, it isn't. I mean, it's taken a year off, a year and a half off. There has been no production,
Sure.
Everything else. Theaters closed all over the world. And,
but you know what? It'll still come back.
September. In September, they're working to open it up.
Yeah.
And also in the West End in London. And I think Australia. So anyway, it'll be lovely to have it get back on. Irene just sent me a little clip of the West End crew singing "Circle of Life." I guess it was kind of a table read kind of thing, and the chorus was all in the room, and they did it, and it was just lovely to see.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I was going to say they're in rehearsals, and that stuff brings a tear to your eye because, first of all, I mean, you're involved in all these stories, and story is king. I mean, I can go down the list of all the movies you're involved in. Beauty and Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, and they all tug at your heartstrings at various places, and especially Lion King. You suffer loss of that story is just kind of it's evergreen. That story happens to so many people, losing a loved one, your dad. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen that, especially in the parks when they play Mickey's PhilharMagic. Those songs make people happy. And anytime you see that film or even the Broadway play and you see Mufasa and then all of a sudden people are like getting teary eyed. This is what happens, so it's a great testament to the story.
It's lovely that it moves people like that. I mean, it's been quite an experience. Irene and I have gone around the world with that show, helping it, going to see how it's playing, how the translations are working, and meeting the casts all over the world is so exciting. For one, the energy and the spirit that all the singers and the dancers and the performers bring to it. But then also knowing that so many people around the world have seen it. It's just it's a crazy thing. It's kind of a lovely communal thing in a way. It kind of connects you with people, which is just a lovely thing.
Well, it is it's a wonderful story that does transcend cultures and language. And it resonates all around the world.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful. So, just to step back for a second, you started writing on the book, as they call it, the adaptation for the Broadway play, and Kingdom of the Sun. They just didn't want to go the direction.
Oh yes, well, I was going to say
the tone of it.
At that time, for one thing, I think Peter Schneider and Tom Schumacher were just in seventh heaven, getting to work on the stage again.
Yeah,
because they were very involved with getting Lion King up on its feet, and they were super excited being back, on stage. So, that had their enthusiasm, and a lot of their attention, was away from the film when it was being developed.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, there was somebody, I can't remember which paper it was. It might have been the New York Times. Somebody wrote an article about how all Disney movies all follow the same formula. And they did this graph, and they broke all the movies down and tried to make them all fit this one pattern, which I felt was like really unfair. But I remember it really unnerved Peter at the time. And I think at that point, after that article, he looked at Kingdom of the Sun and felt like, no, it's hitting all those buttons that we've hit before, the romance, the adventure, the villain, the this and that. And he kept, like, for one, he had me take out the myth, he said, oh, like, take that out. And then it just started being, after a while, it was a little bit like the scene of Cinderella's dress getting torn off piece by piece.
Okay. That's a great metaphor to use, right?
Yeah. Anyway, so basically then they decided to not go with it, and there were some comedic elements that had been come up with by, I'm so bad with names. I'm going to remember.
That's all right.
Anyway, by some guys in the story, Chris, anyway. And they went, well, let's go more in that direction. And then at one point, they had the two productions, because everything was going to be thrown out. Sting had done like 5 or 6 songs
that no longer fit, right?
Yeah, no, they wouldn't fit anymore. So they had done like half the songs, and I think Tom had a bad dream or something one time hit him, was like, my God, what are we doing? Throwing all this out. So then they did one last time, and they had me go back in with story artists to revamp the movie, and then they had Chris and Mark Dindal try a more comedic approach, and basically, so they sort of had us be competing teams, which is kind of awful. And then we pitched our films, and they went with the comedy.
Okay.
So there we went.
And you seemed pretty comfortable with. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but my impression was you were like, that's not the movie I want to make, and I'm going to go do something different.
Yeah. And it was hard to see the whole thing go away. Definitely. Yeah.
No. And again, as I said earlier, that early visual development artwork was really spectacular on it. And I know after you got off that project, you did the book for the Lion King show on Broadway, you did additional story supervision for Lilo and Stitch, and you worked on as a story artist on a few other projects, but you got to direct again on a beautiful little film called The Little Match Girl.
Yes.
You want to talk a little bit about that and how that came about?
I love that little film. Well, it was so cool because, I mean, the story also was sort of funny because it was basically Roy Disney's little secret project that we were doing, right? Because I think he wanted to do a new Fantasia. We did Fantasia 2000.
Correct.
But he was very proud of it. But when Michael Eisner was approached about doing another Fantasia, he went, no, it wasn't enough of a success. So he didn't want to do it. But Roy really wanted to do one. So then there was this kind of secret project going on, and people would be doing musical, and some animated segments, or what do you call it, little features.
Yeah, they were segments. There were segments for a Fantasia film. Yeah.
Yes. To music, and the concept was doing music from around the world. Yeah. So it could involve different cultures and that sort of thing. I thought the idea was wonderful.
Yeah, it was. We were referring to it as Fantasia World, and just so the audience knows, you and I worked on that. I worked for you on The Little Match Girl. I thoroughly enjoyed working on that project because it was a challenge. It was wanting to make it sort of a moving painting that had texture to it, and there were some interesting things that we did on that project. But that was your baby. You selected the piece of music and you structured the story around it.
Yeah, well, it was Don Hahn who came to me and said, would you like to do The Little Match Girl? And it had always been a story that I found very moving, and I used to read it to my kids. And
it's a Hans Christian Andersen.
Christian Andersen again, but I could barely get to the end of the story reading it to my kids without, having tears rolling down my cheek. Yeah. Anyway, I knew it was an emotional story, and I jumped at the chance to do it. We actually started off on a different piece of music, Claire de Lune, I think it was, and I was storyboarding to that. And at one point, Roy Disney came in, and I pitched him the board with that music, and he went, "You know what? I've always hated that piece of music."
It wasn't a Debussy fan.
Roy was always honest. He was always honest. He never held back. He just told you what he thought.
I know. We tried to be done also in the studio in the 40s. It was terrible, so we went, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we found another piece of music, which was the piece by Borodin, which honestly was better. It had way more, a richer emotional content and more diversity to it. I loved it. So set about reboarding to that, and got that put together. And Hans Bacher was doing these lovely sort of monochromatic things. Now I had said I thought the concept could be that, with the girl in the snow, everything would be very cool colors. And then when her visions in the glow of the matchsticks came about, then we'd enter into another a palette of warm colors, and
the warmer world. Yeah.
And then when the match would go out, we'd go back to this very blue, cold world. And he did all these lovely watercolor and ink wash drawings of the little girl, and I loved the way it looked. I loved that dissolving ink edge, the line around things, that blurriness. And I thought, let's try to get that look in the film, so it's not hard color coming up against hard outlines. So we worked very hard on that. And I was really pleased with the result.
And the one thing I do remember from the production was I think we had 3 or 4 different endings that we created.
Oh God! Well, well, the story about that is we had finished it, completely finished it, and then Michael Eisner wanted to review everything was being done in the studio. So all of a sudden, the cat's out of the bag. Oh, by the way, on our spare time and using crews that are on downtime, we've made these musical pieces. And when he saw the little match girl and saw that she died at the end, he went, oh, no, that's too morbid. That's too, you can't have it like that. So we had to, I had to go back in and start coming up with other backgrounds. By that time, actually, I was no longer at Disney. If you remember.
Yeah, that's right.
You moved to Sony.
You went on to Sony Pictures to do Open Season, and you did some work on Surf's Up, but you co-directed or you directed Surf's Up, right? Open Season. Open Season.
I directed.
Yeah, right.
I directed with Jill Colton and Tony Stuckey. Anyway, so while I'm working at Sony, I'm going back and forth to Disney.
That's right.
We're coming up with different endings to this film.
Wow.
And, trying to tone down the whole death thing. Yeah. And I remember we finally had this one version, which I was, it's sort of okay if I have to. And I remember they took it as far as submitting it to the Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah.
Somebody, before it even went in, wrote back a letter. I loved this movie. I love this film, and I'm so happy she doesn't die at the end. And I was like, when Don Hahn read me that letter, I went, Don, that's terrible. It destroys the whole thing. It's not supposed to communicate this. This is terrible. And basically Don said, okay, let's wait on this, because he sort of knew what was in the works.
Yeah.
And basically what happened was Michael Eisner left Disney. He
lost the battle with Roy E.
Yeah, I guess. Anyway,
that's the story I want to tell.
Michael, okay. So Michael left, and then we just put back the ending with the first ending I had.
Yes.
By then, I think we had lost it in the cap system or something. We had to do it over again.
No. We knew where it was. We just had to recomposite the whole thing. We had to put it back together the way it was.
And I remember, I think I redesigned the girl with the snow on her.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and we changed it just a little bit, but we were, just tweaking it to make it read better. And so I was that so rarely happens that you get to then go back and put your original ending in, and then
well, yeah, but something, we did have those opportunities, like on The Lion King for the 10th anniversary. They added in that sequence, News from the Underground, and we did the same thing for a sequence in Pocahontas and a sequence in the Human Again sequence in Beauty and the Beast. And when you do go in to do those types of things, they were doing it because they could add new material and sell the DVD or whatever as a new DVD, but it also gave the filmmakers the opportunity to fix those things they always wanted to fix.
That
they weren't 100% happy with.
That's true. That doesn't always happen, though, I have to say. A lot of times you finish your movie and that's it.
That's the end of it.
As they say, movies are never finished. You just run out of time.
Well, or the other phrase is you never finish a movie, you just release it. You know? So,
Right.
but Roger, what are you doing now? You're not retired, because whenever I talk to my artist friends, they're not retired. They've shifted gears and they're doing something. I know you're doing a lot of painting now. I see a lot of your beautiful pen and ink and watercolor paintings that you post. What's been keeping you busy, and what's exciting you now?
Yeah, well, I've got a big thing going. Actually, the thing with the drawings and the paintings is with Tina Price and the CTN, the Creative Talent Network.
Yeah.
When her gallery reopens, it'll be a show of my paintings. So
fantastic.
That's exciting. It's the first show I've ever had of my artwork. Isn't that funny?
I think it's fantastic. I look forward to coming and seeing that show because I love your painting style.
Thanks. Anyway, so that's been a fun thing. That's something that I've done where I don't have to please anybody. You know what I mean? It's one of those.
You please yourself.
I just please myself and just have fun doing it.
Yeah, and you don't have to hand it in for notes.
That's right. No. I give myself plenty of notes, but I try to stay loose and free. And if it's done, it's done. I don't spend too long on them.
Well, I think they're beautiful paintings, and I hope you continue to do a lot more of them.
Thanks. But the big project has been a musical for the stage. Ever since working on Lion King, I thought, it would be just so cool. I found it such exciting work that I thought I'd love to, be in it on from the scratch and write something from scratch for it. So I've been working on a musical and got a composer, and we have been working together on this and have written like 24 songs. And
wow.
I've written this script for it, or at least the first pass of the book, because that's kind of the stage we're in right now. Is we've done a first pass, and now we really need to start getting it up, with people and seeing how it plays, so that we can bring it into its final shape.
Wow. That's exciting.
There was
very exciting.
Bit of a pause with the whole COVID thing because you couldn't put people together in a room. So it definitely slowed down there for a while. But no, I find that very exciting and definitely excited about it.
Well, I'm excited to hear more details on that when it's appropriate to talk about it further.
Yeah. I'd love to just start spilling all the beans on it, and I don't know how much to talk about it at this stage.
Well, I'm not going to press you because normally I would say, Roger, just between you, me, and our listening audience.
And all those people. Soon, I hope very soon. I'd love to, really put it all out there. It's very exciting, and I'm having a great time working on it.
Well, fantastic, Roger. I have to say, it's been such a pleasure having you on the Skull Rock podcast and talking with you and hearing about the behind the scenes of Kingdom of the Sun, because I was working on other projects at the studio, but you walk down the hall and you see these beautiful boards and, for all these various projects and just to hear from your point of view and your, recollections, what the story was and everything. I think it was very exciting and insightful, and I appreciate your time telling us that.
Thanks, Dave. No, it's been good talking to you.
I do have a question before you leave us, Roger.
Sure.
Couple of things. First of all, it's great that Little Match Girl, and people should know and find it, on the Disney Plus, but was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Animated Short, which is awesome. So that's great that you guys, can share that. But curious, because I'm also a big Sting fan. Is there any possibility or maybe a chance that maybe we fans could hear some of that music at some point?
Boy, I think it would be great if they could. I think a couple of songs, maybe one or two, went on to the soundtrack album of Emperor's New Groove.
Mm-hmm. As like a bonus track.
It was a bonus track?
It didn't relate to anything story-wise, of that, but I think they included it. But there were several songs, and there were recorded versions where Sting was just singing them, and then there were recorded versions when we had the actors or the singers that were going to sing for the actors recording them.
Oh, like a scratch vocal, right?
No, like a final vocal.
Oh, well,
like the singing voice for an actor.
Oh, the singing voice for I got it. Okay, great, great.
Which would have been used, as the final song track.
Wow. Okay.
So I think it would be lovely to be able, to put those out and have people hear them.
Wow. Well, Disney.
Well, I'm going to say we're going to have to ask Chris Montan because he's coming up in a couple weeks as a guest on our show.
Oh, good.
So I'll put that to him and find out if if it's feasible. These things. There could be all kinds of legal things involved. But how was it working with Sting? Did you enjoy that experience?
Yeah. No, it was really interesting. I mean, It was funny because he doesn't usually do projects where he's not the one in control of it in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
We would listen to him in terms of music and everything, but if I questioned a lyric or something because I felt maybe it wasn't appropriate story-wise, he definitely put up a fight. So I don't think he's too used to people wanting to change his lyrics on him. But no, it was really good, and it was fun. I mean, watching him come up with this stuff and listening to him record, and the idea of the different kind of orchestrations and the different instruments used. I got at one point when we were recording a scratch track, I got to go in and sing backup with him in the booth. So that was fun.
That's terrific. You got to have a recording of that laying around somewhere.
There is a recording of it somewhere. God, I don't know where it is. Somewhere.
That's awesome.
Aljon, any other questions?
No, I mean, I think this is great. We could spend another entire show talking to you, and we will down the road. So I'm sure we'll have more questions for you at that point and talking about your future projects. But this has been great learning about the ins and outs and all those projects, and we can't wait to have you back on the show.
Thanks, Aljon. It would be a pleasure.
Well, Roger, as I've said to all of our guests, we can never possibly cover one person's career in an hour and 15 minutes. So we will have you back at a future date to talk about maybe the musical you're working on and pepper you with other questions and drill into some of the other projects a little bit more fully.
Cool. All right.
So thank you so much for being on the Skull Rock podcast, Roger.
All right. Good talking with you, Dave. You too, Aljon.
Let's get out of here!
Come on, Scotty, let's get out of here. Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here, Lieutenant.
All right, Dave, yet another great tribute. Wonderful to hear his voice yet again. Roger Allers, wrapping up this episode of Skull Rock Podcast.
It really is. It was really nice to hear him again and again. Just so upbeat and positive and fun. He's certainly going to be missed. He is missed. He really left a mark on the world as we know it. With if you just look at the Lion King and the Lion King stage production, these are things that millions of people have enjoyed and will continue to enjoy into the future. And Roger lives on in our hearts, but lives on in the world with all of the stuff he created.
It's great that he leaves behind a wonderful legacy for us to remember, and he was able to grace our podcast for at least one interview. So may he rest in peace. If you love Disney and pop culture, please subscribe to our show on every podcast platform. Yes, we out there, gang. We out there. So subscribe. You can also check us out on all the social medias as well. But I tell you, what's wonderful, the fact that you can see this video and see our mugs on YouTube. You can also check us out on Spotify, video podcast. It's amazing. These platforms are amazing. So please check us out. Leave us those 5-star reviews if you will. And we'd also love for you to send us that email. Yes, we do take your email and we'll read it in a future episode. Dave or Aljon at skullrockpodcast.com. Please feel free to check me out every single week on my other podcast. It's Dining at Disney. Kat or Corey and my wife, Kristen, we talk about the Disney parks news, as well as our favorite topic, outside of pop culture, which is food and Disney food. So we're going to be talking about that. And we also review the latest Epcot lounges as well. So check it out this week on Dining at Disney. Also send a shout out to our friends at Sorcerer Radio at srsounds.com for supporting this show and all of our great friends on the interwebs. Dave.
John, I want to mention we're going to be at the Animation Y'all Expo in Nashville, April 10th to the 12th.
Yes.
So folks, you can go to animationyall.com and check out how to get tickets. This is going to be the second expo. I can tell you right now, it's bigger. It's going to be better. There's more stuff going on. I'll just give you a little tidbit. It's the 40th anniversary this year of An American Tale. There's going to be a tribute and panel discussion to do with that. Don Bluth's An American Tale, the executive produced by Steven Spielberg. That was one of the films I point to as being the beginnings of the animation renaissance.
Yes.
So, again, Animation Y'all Expo in Nashville, April 10th to the 12th. Aljon and I will be there. We'll see you there. You can also check me out monthly on the my Tunes Behind the Tunes show, which is on Sirius XM, Disney Hits, Channel 133. All during February, we're featuring the song Try Everything from Disney's animated hit film Zootopia. And also, if you're interested in any of my books, you can get signed copies on the Old Mill Press. You can also get author-signed copies of the newly released The Art of John Canemaker, an animator's Garden by John Canemaker, and A Spoonful of Sugar, the story of the Upjohn Pharmacy in Disneyland by Stephen Hall. Those are both available now, and they're shipping. And you can always go to davidbossert.com if you want to see some free material, free content to read, some articles I've written over the years, as well as send away for free stuff. You can do that. And with that, Aljon, I'm going to say to everybody, stay warm if you're in the midst of the Arctic blast coming down from the top of the globe. Stay warm. Go out. Have a fantastic week. And we will see you back here next Monday, right here on the Skull Rock Podcast.